Oh, shalom to all of you. It's so good to have another Sabbath. It's so good to arrive at a place and time where everything is good. The Most High has brought us through as He said He would. He's been kind and gracious like He said He would. He's been loving to Israel and protecting Israel. I want to say to all of those of you that are watching by way of the stream, we have launched a new media presentation we're doing a podcast that'll be launched each week. And if you have the First Tabernacle Fellowship app on your phone, either if you have an Android and you can get it on Google Play, First Tabernacle Fellowship, and it's called Podcast. Kohanim Appleton and I are putting it together. He's the engineer. Y'all know he can do that kind of stuff. So he's the engineer, and we're trying to reach out to young people and to make Hebrew Israelites in exile. That's what it's called. Hebrews in Exile. And it's on the First Tabernacle Fellowship app at the present time. And if you can't get the First Tabernacle Fellowship app, then you can go to Podbean, 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 Podbean. Download Podbean, look for Hebrews in Exile, and you'll be able to hear our podcast each week. And also, you can leave comments if you'd like to. And in the future, as we move along and get it launched and get it functioning the way we want to, we may be even inviting you in as guests to be part of this conversation that we have each week on podcast. Right now, Kohanim Appleton is ready to come and share with us the Parashah Mikketz, Bereshit chapter 41, verse 1 through 44 through 17, and starting next week when I start teaching again every other week, I'm going to be working through the 613 mitzvot. You can tune in to our Zoom class on Friday evening. I'll be teaching them there, continuing them on our Sabbath. We're going to work through detailed explanation of the applications and the meaning of all of the 613 mitzvot that the Father has given us. So if you'd like to tune into those teachings, join us on Friday evening at 7 o'clock on Zoom, and then on our stream every other week when I teach. At this time, here he comes. Y'all ready for him? And now I present to you Kohanim Sean Appleton.
I need to have a curtain and some theme music for that. I was unprepared for that.
The one thing we have to do is we have to have fun and we have to enjoy. I mean, hey, you know, church is so sterile. You know, it's so sterile, and we're trying to break that sterile mode.
Yeah.
So look at him.
Look at him.
Look at him.
Look at him. Look at. Let me tell you
Lord
something.
have mercy.
What month is it? Wait a minute. Hold on. What month is it?
That what?
What month is it?
What month is it?
Yeah. What month is it?
What month is it?
No. They call this right now. We celebrate what this month?
Oh, this is Hebrew History Month.
Thank you. I was trying to bait you into saying Black History
Yeah, I
Month.
know,
No,
but
it's Hebrew
I
History
messed
Month.
you up, didn't I?
Yes, you
See,
did.
This is what goes
the
on
kind
in the
of banter
This is what
that-
goes on the podcast. We do this kind of bantering in the podcast. See, you thought you was gonna trick me, but see, I know this is Hebrew Celebration Month.
That's right.
Now they don't know it's Hebrew Celebration Month,
right.
but we know it's Hebrew
Go
Celebration
ahead,
Month.
teach the Parashah.
No,
You
I'm through.
right up
No,
there.
I'm through. Come on, I'm done. Come on back.
All right, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom to all of you. All right. Parashah Mikketz, Bereshit, chapter 41 through 44. I take it that most of you may be familiar or unfamiliar with the passage that we're going to talk about today. I want to actually make this kind of a little personal thing for you right out the gate. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions, kind of get you engaged a little bit. Is that all right? And if it wasn't all right, I don't care. We're going to learn some things about families today. How many of you have been done wrong by somebody in your family? I mean, done wrong. Done wrong. Disrespected. Accused of something that you didn't do, and you had to take the blame for it and be the bigger person. We're going to have some fun today. I'd like to have the Most High set this stage. We're going to learn a little bit about that today, okay? About family drama. And this issue of, because today we got an individual we're going to talk about by the name of Yosef. And actually I'm going to have a good segue into that as well. What do you know about Yosef? What do you know about him? His brothers sold him off. He was very loved by his father. What else you know about him? He had dreams. I like that in the back. Said he had dreams. He was the dreamer. That's what they called him. Here comes Yosef the dreamer. Here he comes again. What else? Anything else? He had a robe that his father made for him. He did have a robe that his father made for him. We're going to go over that in a little bit. That's good. You know a little bit about Yosef. The one thing that I was actually going to try to bring out about Yosef, just like I had brought up about the issue with Abraham, that Abraham's what? Now, Abraham's a mastermind. When Abraham's in the room with you, you need to be thinking, this man is playing chess when I'm playing checkers. Okay? Think of Abraham the mastermind, not just Abraham, the guy that was rich. I want you to think about Yosef now in a little bit of a different light. Yosef the Egyptian. Okay? Yosef has something very much in common with who's narrating this, by the way. Who's writing? Moshe. And how does Moshe know about all this? Because Yahweh has given him, look at this, you guys need to come up here and actually teach this. I don't need to teach this today. I'll just ask a bunch of questions. You guys got the whole entire thing. The Most High spoke with Moshe, not face to face, because any man that sees the face of the Most High cannot live. So he spoke with the presence of the Most High like I'm speaking to you, like a friend. Okay? Like a friend. So, in getting into this today, I want you to think about Yosef the Egyptian. And Yosef had his name changed. He actually went to Egypt around age 17. He appears before Pharaoh at age 30. He dies in Egypt, I believe, at the tender age of 110. So he's more Egyptian than he is anything else. But he never, remember this, he never loses his Hebrew roots. He stays true to his Hebrew roots the whole entire time. Let's get into our overview on what we're going to talk about today. Chapter 41, I like introducing that. Chapter 41 is about Pharaoh has two dreams that none of his wise men or magicians or sorcerers or witchcraft folk that he had around him could interpret. it's probably a good segue. I'm going to stop here in a second, and I'm going to ask you a couple questions because I want to see if you actually listen to your rabbi. So I'm going to ask some questions of this group. We're going to see if they have actually listened to you. Okay? Yosef interprets the dream of Pharaoh. And then we see the rise to power of Yosef himself. That's what we see in chapter 41. Okay? And actually, I'm going to save these little test questions for him until we actually get into 41, when I actually get into the weeds of this. Chapter 42, Yaakov's 10 sons, 10, not 11, go down to Mitzrayim to buy grain, but their visit goes adversely wrong. I wonder what happens when they go down there. Something happens to them when they go down there that's not what they intended. Chapter 43, Yaakov's 9 sons. That should give you a hint of what actually happened down there. 9 sons returned to Mitzrayim, and Benjamin, which is what? Ben is the son, Yamin of the right. As I'm facing east, the son of my right he was born to the south. If this is east, then my south is where he was born. That's why he gets the name Benjamin, son of the south. With them, okay, so Yaakov's 9 sons return to Mitzrayim and take Benjamin with them where things go wrong again. Chapter 44. Yaakov's sons fellowship with Yosef, which his name gets changed by Pharaoh to Safnat Panecha. Safnat Panecha. That is his Egyptian name. That is the name he sticks with for about 80 plus years. Benjamin becomes a slave to Yosef. That's what happens in chapter 44. I'm going to tell you right now, chapter 44, this whole entire Parashah is kind of a cliffhanger because at the end it doesn't really resolve. You don't get your resolve until you get to the next Parashah. So, all right? Oh. In order to understand Yosef, I think it would be best if we went all the way back to chapter 37. Now, if you can do me a favor, that beautiful lady back there behind the ones and twos, can put up on the screen there, chapter 37 of Bereshit. We're going to go back. We're going to learn a little bit about Yosef himself. I'm going to bring you up to the current events of what's happening right now. But let's go back and understand what Yosef is about, okay? Chapter 37, starting at verse 1 in Bereshit. Okay? We good? I keep saying that. Somebody came up to me as I'm stalling here, and they said to me, you know what you say all the time when you're up there talking? Are we good? We good? Can I see the Bible here? Are we good? We good? All right, come on, stay with me. We good? All right. All right. Reading for your hearing out of the Complete Jewish Bible, starting at chapter 37, verse 1 through 11. This is what we're going to do. Yaakov continued living in the land where his father had lived as a foreigner, in the land of Canaan. Here is the history of Yaakov. When Yosef was 17 years old, he used to pasture the flock with his brothers, even when he was still a boy. Once he was with the sons of Bilhah and Zophah. Now, I know I got a lot of heat last time that I spoke, because I spoke about multiple wives. These are the other 2 wives of Yaakov. He had brought a bad report about them to their father. So he went and did what we call nowadays and snitched on his brothers. Use a word that the young people use. I can say that now because I'm old as Methuselah. Now, Yisrael loved Yosef the most out of all of his children because he was the son in his old age, and he made him a long-sleeved robe. When his brothers saw that his father loved him more than his brothers, and that's one of the things that we do as fathers, we try to do what? We try to be impartial to all of our kids, okay? Because things like this start to creep up. I know I got a witness right there. When his brothers saw that his father loved him more than all of his brothers, he began to hate him. And it reached a point where they couldn't even talk to him in a civil manner. They were so jealous of Joseph that they couldn't even talk to him. Couldn't talk to him. Now, this is where I'm getting into that part about you've been done wrong. They got that jealousy creeps up. I'm going to take it out on you. Joseph had a dream, and he told his brothers that made them hate him even more. Listen, while I tell you about this dream of mine, we were tying up bundles of wheat. Listen, because this is going to come up. We were tying up bundles of wheat in the field, and suddenly my bundle got up and stood itself, and got up by itself and stood up. Wow, I wrote that wrong. And stood upright. Oh my goodness, I copied it twice. I'm at 7. We were tying up bundles of wheat in the field, when suddenly my bundle got up itself and stood upright. When your bundles came and gathered around mine and prostrated themselves before it. His brothers reported, yes, you will certainly be our king. This is sarcastically. Sure, we're going to bow down to you someday. Right. All right. You'll do a great job of bossing us around. And they hated him still more for his dreams of what he had even said. Verse 9, he had another dream in which he told his brothers, here, I had another dream, and there was the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars prostrating themselves before me. He told his father too, as well as his brothers, and his father rebuked him. What is this dream that you've had? Do you really expect me and your mother and all of your brothers to prostrate ourselves before you on the ground? His brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind. Fast forward about Joseph. One day, Joseph is by himself. His father, Yaakov, tells him to go check on his brothers that are in the field. They were pasturing. He does what his father asks him to do. He goes and finds his brothers, and his brothers begin to plot. What do they say? Oh, here comes the dreamer. Yeah, the one that we're going to bow down to. Look at this Negro over here. Mm-hmm. You know what we should do? We should just end all of this right now and just kill him. Just be done with it. We don't have to deal with this anymore. It was Reuven, his older brother, that said, we should not kill him. Except let's just throw him in the cistern. Let's do something else. We shouldn't kill him. That's wrong. He's our brother, for goodness sakes. It was Yehuda that said, okay, fine. Let's go ahead and we'll snatch him up. And that's what they did. They snatched him up, threw him in the cistern. Does everybody know what a cistern is? It's a well. It's a well. Our cisterns now are above ground. You see those big things. If you're out in Davis, if you know for Northern California, there's those big cisterns, those wells that has all the water in it. These were below ground. They threw him in it, and the walls are smooth. Okay? Couldn't get out. Yehuda comes up with this bright idea and says, listen, you know what? What we should do is we should take his robe that we ripped off of him, put some animal's blood on it, and shred it up, and that's what we'll go back and we'll tell our father that happened to him, that he was killed. Now, I want to actually take a segue here, because what happens is Reuven, when he says, let's not kill our brother, he leaves. And this discussion is happening with the other 10 brothers, okay? So, they throw him in. Yehuda, I should say, absent of Reuven, the brothers take Joseph, throw him in this cistern. Reuven comes back and doesn't see. Actually, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Yehuda comes up with a bright idea and says this while he's in the cistern. Let's sell him. Let's sell him to these merchants that are coming down the road here. So that's what they do. They sell their own brother for a pound of silver shekels. Reuben comes back, so they take Yosef, they lift him up out, and now he's carted off to Mitzrayim, and he is now going to be sold somewhere in Mitzrayim. So Reuben comes back, he sees his brother not in there. He's livid. Like, oh, my brothers actually went ahead and they took him out. He was gone. He was a little ticked off. Now, think about Yosef right now. I don't know if there was something about him that made, other than the fact that his demeanor or the fact that they were just super jealous of him, why they decided to do this to him, but look at it from his perspective. Now, I asked a question earlier, have you ever been done wrong by somebody in your family? Have you ever had someone in your family try to kill you? They've gone to the point where they've said, you know what, we're getting ready to take him out. But their hand was stayed. He gets into Mitzrayim and he's sold to whom? Potiphar. Potiphar is the captain of the guard for Pharaoh. Yosef has a little run-in with Pharaoh's wife because Pharaoh's wife was on some other stuff. She wanted something that she clearly couldn't have. So she decided to fabricate a story about an innocent man. So don't tell me that, You need to hear both sides of the story. I'm just going to leave it right there. She decides to make up this story, which in fact gets Yosef incarcerated. He's in jail where he encounters two individuals, a baker and a cupbearer. The cupbearer and the baker both have dreams, which Yosef is able to interpret. And he tells them what's going to happen. Matter of fact, what's going to happen to the baker? Baker's going to get killed. He's going to get hung. He tells him that. But he tells the cupbearer, you're going to actually be restored back to your position. Now, when you get back to your position, I want you to remember me. Whatever, you're just a Hebrew. 2 years goes by. Yosef is still incarcerated. Or, matter of fact, I shouldn't say, I was getting ready to tell you his age, because he's 30 years old. So he got taken when he was around 17. He's in Mitzrayim for a long time, managing Potiphar's house. He gets put in jail, probably around put in jail, and then he spends some time in there. He's probably at least in jail for like 2-3 years, okay? So he's 30 years old when he shows up in front of Potiphar. So he gets put incarcerated when he's about 28, 27 years old, okay? Now, what happens next is chapter 41. Now we're up to current events, okay? Just recapped Joseph's story up into this particular point. All right, he's incarcerated. And then we start with this particular chapter in 41. And what happens here is Pharaoh has a dream. He has a dream about that's something that's really, really disturbing. And the dreams are so vivid that it upsets him so much. His dream is about the first dream, because he has two. His first dream is about these cows. They're grazing in swampland. They're by the edge of the Nile, and they're grazing. There are fat ones and there are skinny ones that come up, but there's 7 of them. These 7 cows that are grazing there, undisturbed, now are joined by 7 more cows. And these particular cows, what they do is they devour these kind of disgusting looking cows, these disgusting cows devour the good cows, the fat ones and the lean ones. Pharaoh wakes up from his dream. What happens next is Pharaoh has another dream. He falls back asleep. Pharaoh has another dream. And in this second dream, what he sees is an ear of grain that grows up. 7 good ears of grain grows up. And then right after it, 7 poor looking pieces of grain, of stalk grow up, and they devour that 7. So he kind of has the dream twice, but different aspects of it. Totally distraught by his dream, he summons all of his magicians and sorcerers and wise men to his council to ask what in the world is up with this dream. Now here we go. Pop quiz. Let me see if you listen to your rabbi. What prophet is this almost identical to? Ooh. Who said that? Who? Daniel. Daniel had kind of the same thing happen. When we enter into the book of Daniel, at the beginning, what we're seeing is this. The Babylonians have come in. There's the southern kingdom. The Babylonians come in and they sack it. Most High says, I gave Yehuda over to the Babylonians. Okay? Why? Come on, it's easy. It's over in Devarim 28. You guys come on, because they decided they didn't do this, doing the same thing that we're doing right now. And I told me and your rabbi had a discussion about that. I said, the children of the Hebrews have a problem that they continue to keep perpetuating ever since they got kicked out of the land, which is what? We fall away from the Most High, and the Most High has to give us a spanking. And what is that spanking? That's usually slavery and being ruled by other nations. We've been repeating that thing forever. And it has not changed. That is what our mission is. That is what we should be teaching others, is about the nation of Israel and our return to the Most High. Not about your individual self, where you can go to your welfare church and get some type. Well, I use the word welfare. That's right. You know why I use the word welfare? Because you're depending on somebody else to do something for you, instead of you doing it yourself.
Good point. Good point.
You are dependent on a man to do everything for you, including save you. So you take your welfare mind back there, but for the Most High, he's about his people, not an individual person. I want to make that abundantly clear. So, now that we're all friends, back to Daniel. Daniel had the same issue. So he's warning, there was this warning that came from the prophets. We talked about that when we talked about Zephaniah and all these other individuals. They said, hey, the Babylonians are coming. They come in, they sack the land, and what do? They go in to all these Hebrews and they say, we want the best and the brightest. So they pick Daniel and 3 other Hebrew boys. Those 3 Hebrew boys are very famous because they walk around in this little fiery furnace later on. But what happens is that in the 2nd chapter of Daniel, we have the same thing happening. He's being brought before the king, Nebuchadnezzar, and as a wise man, Nebuchadnezzar is asking him. He's asking him, hey, I had this dream that I can't figure out, and that's the one with the tall man with the bronze and the silver and the gold and the clay feet and all that. And this is what Nebuchadnezzar tells his wise men and sorcerers. He says, I want you to tell me what this dream is, and I want you to interpret it for me. And his wise men say one thing to him. They say, listen, what you're asking us to do is impossible. Because they're asking him, tell us the dream. He's like, I'm not telling you a dream. That's why you're a sorcerer. You're supposed to know. Why would I tell it to you? That's what I'm imploring you to do. Tell me the dream and then interpret it. Nobody can do it. Even Daniel, they go to him. And Daniel himself says, you know what? Yes, what the king is asking for is impossible. Again, I'm making a parallel here because there's a prophet and you got your narrator and you got Joseph that all have the same thing in common. They're under a different nation. They're all under a different nation. Daniel goes on, and he actually was able to go ahead because the king said, if you can't interpret this dream, all of you, I'm going to kill you all because you're not worth your salt. Daniel goes back, he entreats the Most High, and Daniel's able to interpret the dream, and he's able to live. until we get to the point where Nebuchadnezzar flips again and he says, you know what, you guys need to bow down to this statue that I saw that he built, that he saw in his dream. And that's when we get to the part where the 3 Hebrew boys say, I'm not going to bow down to that. Even though, now this is the point for us, let's hit home for a second. Even though we are in an exiled nation, just like Daniel in Babylon, just like Moshe in Mitzrayim, just like Yosef in Mitzrayim, they never lose sight of the Most High. They have to assimilate into the customs of that area and culture that they're in, but they never forsake the Most High. Remember that. Because you could question Yosef here. All right? I gave you the complete answer because you just ended up just saying it was Daniel. I was expecting people to say something like, I don't know, Donald Trump or something. I don't know. All right, so he goes in front of Pharaoh. Pharaoh, he interprets. So what happens is now Pharaoh is so distraught. Let's get back to Joseph. Pharaoh is so distraught. So what he does is he asks his wise men and all of his counselors. He says, hey, I don't know what this dream is. It's making me upset. It just so happens that who's in the room when he's doing this? The cupbearer. The cupbearer. He remembers that he had a problem in front of Pharaoh. Pharaoh threw him in jail, and he encountered this Hebrew that was in there that actually could interpret things. So he goes in front of Pharaoh. He says, Pharaoh, I entreat you, please listen to me. There's an individual that I know that I think can interpret what you're talking about, your dream for you. So what do? They go get Joseph. They pull him out of jail, shave him, put him on a robe, make him look good, put some blades on his feet. Never mind. They bring him in front of Pharaoh. He gets in front of Pharaoh and Pharaoh says to him, I have a dream that no one can interpret. I need someone to interpret to you. And he says something very wise. He says, listen, it's not for me to interpret your dream. The Most High will give you peace about your dream, not I. So he goes on and he tells him his dream. Now, what's interesting about your buddy, and I actually want to bring this up real quick. You know what? You know what, y'all? I've gotten so into telling this that I forgot to do something. I forgot to do something. I forgot to do something. I'm looking down here in my notes. I'm like, oh, okay. So let's stick a pin in that. Let's go over this real quick, okay? Does anybody know what that word is? Good. You know what? I'm going to stop doing this. Because literally I ask this every time I get up there and you tell me exactly what it is. Safnat Panecha. That is the Egyptian name for Yosef. Okay? Let's just do this real quick. And I'm only do one because I have two of them up here. You know who's this, right? Who's that? No, that's not Yosef. That's ending with a vav. A vav, yes, or a wa. Yaakov. That's Yaakov. Good. You guys you've been doing Hebrew so long you don't even need the vowels anymore. That's scary. All right, let's put the vowels up here. So, again, C, oh boy. Come on. How long you been doing this, my friend? All right. So, C plus V equals S. We read from Hebrew, we read from right to left and down. Okay, that's kind of the general rule. So let's start over here. What sound does that first character make? That is a sadiq. That makes a TS sound. Okay? All right? And then, first of all, let me go ahead and put your vowels up here. We've got a schwa in here. And then we got to our second word, which I'm going to put a dot in there so you know. And this is 2 dots here and a line under that. Those are your vowels that I just wrote in there so you can understand. So we got our consonant taken care of. Now we need to come over to the V. What's the V? It's the ah sound. Very good. I want to move quickly through this. What's this character? It's P. This one has a PH sound because it doesn't have the dot in it. Okay? And then we have a schwa. Okay? Schwa, we know that's our vowel, and it cuts this off. So I'm going to delineate it by just doing that little dotted line. Next we have a what? A noon. That makes an N sound. Then we have a vowel is our, underneath it is the ah. We keep going, C plus V, C plus V, C plus V. These are the consonants, those are the vowels. And then we end it off with the tav, which is a T. Okay? Second word. This is another pay, but or we can call this this is a pay, this is a fay, this is a pay. Okay? So that's the P sound. Then we're going to make our line, which is the ah, that's our vowel. Then we have another schwa. All right? There's a rule for this. When the schwa is preceded by another vowel, then it is silent. Okay? We go on to our next, which is a noon. That makes the N sound. And then we have an eh sound for our two little dots. And then we have, this is supposed to be like that. This is a chet, which makes the CH sound. And then we have a line, which is the ah. That's how you get safnat panecha. Safnat panecha. That is what he's known as in Mitzrayim, as Yosef. Because he gets his name changed in this particular chapter. So, he goes and he tells Pharaoh, let's get back to our chapter 41. Pharaoh tells him this dream, both the dreams, and there should be an obvious question that's asked, is why does the Most High give Pharaoh this dream twice? Why does he give it to him twice? And actually, Moshe does a good job of actually giving you the answer. Let's go to it. We just did that. And Bereshit 41 and 32, why was the dream doubled for Pharaoh? That is actually in Scripture. I'm quoting it. Because the matter has been fixed by Yahweh, and Yahweh will shortly cause it to happen. That's why he did it twice, to emphasize it. Like this is going to come quick. So Moshe does the work for you a little bit. Now, not only does Yosef, he's able to interpret the dream, and what he tells Pharaoh is this. He says, this is what's going to happen, sir. Mr. Pharaoh. The 7 ears of good grain, and seven stalks of good grain, and the 7 fat and lean cows that got eaten up by the decrepit ones represent years, good years. Good years, and then, not the Goodyear tires, because I'm saying that fast, good years. Now, the 7 bad stalks of grain and the 7 dismal-looking cows that ate the first are 7 bad years. Now, what's going to happen is that there's going to be a famine in the land. And for 7 years, there's going to be an abundance. And then there's going to be 7 years that the abundant years are going to be negated by the 7 years of famine. And this is what's going to happen. Pharaoh is astonished. How in the world does this Hebrew, I keep saying that because I want you to understand something about, I'm giving my own thunder away. I can't hold it. Okay, I'm going to wait. You Hebrew. Do you get how I'm saying that? It's a negative thing. You Hebrew was able to interpret that. That astonishes me. Do we have anybody else that's as wise as this one in Mitzrayim anywhere? We don't? Well, you better talk about that. Not only does he interpret the dream, but he gives Pharaoh the answer on what he should do. He tells Pharaoh, says, listen, this is what's going to happen, and check this out. This is how we're going to correct this. So you should be able to, this is what you need to do. You need to put supervisors in place to go out through the land and collect a tax from everyone, from the produce of 20%. When you collect that 20% tax, we're going to take that and we're going to store it in storehouses in the cities of Mitzrayim. This is what you should do, oh great King Pharaoh. You should do that. And then once those 7 years come, then people will come to us or come to you, and we will be able to distribute grain and keep everyone alive. Again, Pharaoh is astonished about this whole entire thing. So this is what he does. He's so impressed. Now, if I was a T.D. Jakes, this is where I would, no offense to T.D. Jakes, don't sue me. If I was a T.D. Jakes, I would springboard off of this right here. No matter where you are, God is going to take care of you. If you're in the nations, God is going to take. See, you could jump off and do that right there. You could spiritualize this whole entire thing. It's a great segue. He finds favor in the eyes of Pharaoh. Pharaoh says, listen here, I'm going to give you something. Because of this, this is what's going to happen. Here's my signet ring. Take this ring off and put it on you. Take this ring off, put it on your hand. I'm also going to put a gold chain around your neck. I'm also going to make you second in command of Mitzrayim. No one will be greater than you except for me when I'm on the throne. Everyone must heed what you tell them to do. This is what he gives him. You'll ride in the nicest chariot. He says he gives him the second best chariot in Mitzrayim. He does all this for him. And then on top of that, what he does is he goes ahead and he gives him an Egyptian wife. Gives him an Egyptian wife. Anybody know what her name is? It does start with an A. It's not that lengthy. Yeah. He gives her or gives him a wife, and her name is Aznath. Aznath. Now, Aznath actually means this. It means belonging to the goddess Neth. Okay? So, Joseph's new wife is named after this goddess. And also about his new wife as well. His new wife is the daughter of Potipharah. Now, some might believe that Potipharah and Potiphar are the same person. I'm going to go strictly in context here and say it was a different person. Okay, because that'd been cold-blooded. You'd be like, oh, the woman that threw you in jail, you go marry her daughter. That'd have been some stuff, but I don't want to read into it and just say something that's not there or don't have any evidence for to base it on. But let's just go with what Scripture says. Not that we wouldn't. And this is Potipharah. Now, Potipharah is the priest of On. Now, when I did my initial research on this, the first thing I started to do was I looked up who is the god On. O-N. And after coming to a dead end, the Most High revealed to me that the priest of On is not a god. The priest of On is a city. On is a city in Mitzrayim. So he's the priest of that particular city. And Paro gives Yosef, or Zafnat Panecha, this wife. This is his first wife. All right. So her name means, Aznath means belonging to Neth. Now, Neth was an early ancient Egyptian deity who is said to have been the first and prime creator. She was said to be the creator of the universe and all that it contains. She governs how it functions. She was the goddess of wisdom, weaving, the cosmos, mother of rivers, water, childbirth, hunting, war, and fate. She's mainly known to be a warlike goddess. That's who he was given as a wife. Now, again, when Joseph appears in front of Paro, he's 30 years old when all of this happens. Now, what happens next is Joseph is in charge of all of Mitzrayim, and he's collecting everything. He's collecting what he needs to collect, okay? He's taking that tax, and then they're actually going outside of Mitzrayim. I think Scripture says this as well. He jumps outside of the city walls of Mitzrayim and starts collecting grain and bringing that into the storehouses as well. So it's not only the people of Mitzrayim that he's doing it outside. So Scripture goes on to say that he collected so much that they stopped counting. They stopped counting because it was beyond measure. Now, in the first year of the famine, Joseph has 2 sons. Who are they? Manasseh and Ephraim, which make them what? Egyptians. They're born in Mitzrayim. They're half Egyptian and half Hebrew. They stay in Mitzrayim for a very, very long time. I told you, their father dies, Joseph, when he's 110. They're in Mitzrayim for a long time. That's all they know. But you got to understand that Joseph never leaves his roots. I was talking to my wife about this. I said, people ask us all the time. They said, where are you from? I always got to struggle with that for a little bit. For those of us, a lot of us are transplants here in California. You kind of say, well, I'm from Ohio. But most of the time I tell people I'm from California, which I'm really not. I didn't originate from California. I originated from Ohio. So my roots are always going to be Ohio. All right? So Joseph is still instilling into his sons this Hebraic way, right? Even though these 2 individuals, Manasseh, who at the end, when they're brought in front of Yaakov, and Yaakov does the hand switch, his hands, he flips his hands, he's talking to his 2 Egyptian grandsons, okay? So it's a difficult thing to understand because you have more in common with the children of Israel back then as you do right now. What, you live in a foreign land, exile, and you're under the cultural guise of this country, but yet and still you worship the Most High when the rest of the country is Christian. So what makes you any different from the folks that we're talking about? Don't think that this book is so ancient that it don't talk to you right now. Because what we've done as the church has pimped us, we have gone and we've got to this point where we've spiritualized everything. There's this spell that's on Scripture that says you're supposed to look at it a certain way. I can't look at it in its proper context. I got to look at it from, I got to spiritualize this. Oh, Yeshua was walking around with them in the fiery furnace. No, he wasn't. You're spiritualizing that. Scripture doesn't say that. You're talking about Yeshua stepped on the head of the serpent in Bereshit 3. No, he didn't. Scripture doesn't say that. You're spiritualizing it. Matter of fact, one of these days, you know what I'm going to do one of these days? I'm looking at my Bible. You know what I'm going to do? You and I are going to write the New Testament. Because, you know, what difference does it make? I mean, they took the old and decided to update it. Why don't we just go and upgrade theirs? Because you ask the question all the time. Who said that? I'm asking a different question. You know what my question is? Is what happened that was so bad that we said, you know what? We need to update that and do something different. What happened to Scripture where it got so bad that you had to do that? Because you decided it wasn't fitting you instead of you fitting it. So let's just go make something that's going to fit our lifestyle. I know if I opened up a church in the newer New Testament, oh my goodness, be packed to the hilt. Be doing everything in there. It's not going to happen. Okay, let's get back to this. All right. So what do we have here? We have the fact that there's an abundance of 7 years. His 2 sons get born to him in the first year of the famine. All the storehouses were opened. Joseph makes a killing. Because guess what? Everybody comes to Mitzrayim for grain. Do you realize how powerful this Hebrew is? Do you understand that? He basically controlled the world. Not just, the United States, not just England, not just European countries, not just Africa. He controlled the world. Because they all had to come to him for food, which gave him a great deal of power. Chapter number 42. Chapter number 42 begins with Yaakov and his sons, and they're in Canaan, and they're running out of food. All right. We're running out of food, folks. Yaakov gets on the case of his sons. He said, what in the world are you Negroes doing looking at each other? Why are you staring around at each other? Go on ahead and go down to Mitzrayim and get some grain, or we're going to die. So, the brothers, now I want you to understand something. I'll throw this in here, okay? They are very reluctant to go to Mitzrayim. Do you know why that is? They are very reluctant to go to Mitzrayim because Mitzrayim is not friendly to Hebrews. And this will come up later on, twice, 2 more times. In Mitzrayim, Egyptians, and again, I want to reiterate something. I want to make something abundantly clear. This has nothing to do with skin color. This is 0 to do with skin color. These people were abhorrent to them. And if you want to be technical about it, they probably were the same hue. Egyptians and these Hebrews were probably the same hue. Maybe a shade or light, or darker or lighter. Doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is that they were abhorrent to them. This is the first place we see. You think that you being and I'm speaking to my African American folks in here, you think that the 60s was the first place that showed up where you were segregated? No. You were segregated back here. They didn't like you. And I have my own postulations in my hubris about what that actually is, and I'll get to that in a second. So, what happens here is he sends his 10 sons down to Mitzrayim to buy grain. When they get to Mitzrayim, this is what's funny. Because when they get to Mitzrayim, they get in front of Joseph and they bow before him. What was in Joseph's dream? He said, you're going to have to bow before me. That's number 1. They're going to do it multiple times. He said, because in the dream, he says, you were bowing. Bowing to me. They bow to Joseph. Joseph recognizes them. He recognizes them, but they don't recognize him. He says, go get those men and bring them to me. They bring them the brothers. Now, the brothers are bewildered. They don't know what's going on here. Okay, this guy wants to see us. And he says, where are you from? And they say, oh, we are from the land of Canaan. No, you're not. You're a bunch of spies. Now, Scripture says that Joseph, when he saw them, he remembered his dream. And the dream, that's the reason why I started in chapter 37, so we could go through his dream on what they were going to do. He remembered his dream. Now, it didn't say Joseph was like, oh, I forgive my brothers. I think Joseph had a little bit of a vindictive streak in him. Oh, y'all wanted to kill me, huh? Y'all wanted to kill me, man? That's what's up, man. Y'all want to kill me, man? I got something for you. I got something for you. So he goes and gets them. They come before him. They bow. He remembers his dream. He says he accuses them of being spies. He says, you know what? You've come in here to undermine Mitzrayim. And as Pharaoh lives, I am not going to allow that. So this is what you do. They're like, no. You've got it all wrong. We are 12 sons. one of the sons is back home with our father, and one of the sons is gone. Which they're talking about him. They don't even know it. One of them is gone. So, please understand, we just want to come down here and buy food. Now, Joseph is playing along with this. He's disguising himself. He's being very coy. He says, okay, fine. I don't believe you. And if you are righteous men, this is what I want you to do. I want you to bring your brother down here. Bring him. Bring Benjamin. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. He doesn't say Benjamin. He doesn't say Benjamin. I'm inserting that in there. He just says, bring your brother down there. He knows who they're talking about, but he doesn't necessarily say that to them. Okay? All right? Now, I want you to understand something. Yosef is not talking to them. Zafnat Panecha is not talking to them in Hebrew. To sell this even more, he has an interpreter there with him. They're talking to the interpreter. He's speaking Egyptian back to him. The governor says, this is what's happening. There's an interceder in here. But the whole entire time he's playing them like a fiddle because he understands every word that they're saying. Because he was raised Hebrew. He knows how to speak it. So there's this little cat and mouse game that's going on along with the language that's there. So he's playing this very, very well. So what happens next is, okay, if you say what you say is true, bring your brother back down here. But I promise you this. You come back to Mitzrayim without your brother, and you will never see my face again. You know why? Because I'll kill you. Now, the brothers agree. They said, we will do this. We will do this. So what happens, he said, I'm going to let you think about it. So what Zafnat Panecha does in his role as viceroy is he says, take these men and throw them in jail. He throws them in jail. They're in jail for they're incarcerated for 3 days. Get a little payback. He's in jail for 3 days. Plus, again, he has to keep up the appearance of what? He doesn't know them. And that, again, Hebrews are detestable in Egypt. Okay? Now, after 3 days, he goes and he sees them. He says, look, this is what's going to happen. I am going to release one of you. And if you are honest and true men to say what you have said, go get your brother, bring him back. This is what's going to happen. I'm going to keep one of you here. The rest of you go back and go get your brother. Now, here's the funny thing, is that the brothers, he kind of is off, maybe he's off to the side. I'm trying to imagine how this is actually happening when he tells them this. And then they go ahead and they say, okay, you're releasing us from this incarceration. We're going to go get our brother. We've agreed to it. And what he does is the brothers start talking amongst themselves. And this is where we get in Scripture where we know that there's an interpreter that's usually there. Because Scripture says that he heard everything that they were talking about. And they started complaining amongst themselves. And Reuben, who was what? The guy that said, don't kill my brother. Don't kill him. Just throw him in the cistern because all of you wanted him dead. Reuben is the first one that jumps up and says, it's because of you jabronis, we are in this situation right now. You guys said that you guys wanted to kill him, and because of this, this whole entire calamity has beset us. Look at how karma is kicking us in the rear end right now because of all of you. Scripture says that, I'm pretty sure he was delighting in hearing all this, but Scripture says that Joseph was listening to all this and understood exactly why they were complaining. He's like, my plan is working according to plan. So he takes, you know which brother he decides to keep? Okay, I'm going to look over here. There's a brother that they keep. The brother that they keep is the one that's about it. There's a reason why I'm looking over here. There's a brother that's about it. That brother's name is, you may know him as Simeon or Shimshon. Now, this dear Kohanim taught on this the last time he was up here. There were two individuals that got very upset about what happened in Shechem with their sister Dinah. It was Shimshon and Levi. I think now this is me postulating about this. I believe he decided to keep Simeon there, or Shimshon there, because Simeon was about it. Simeon would have probably retaliated. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to take the strongest one out of you, and we're going to keep him by himself. Because I need the rest of you to go back and do what I need you to do. There's something strategic about what he's doing. Hebrews are not stupid. All of your patriarchs are intelligent people.
Talk about it.
That's what they are. Every time you see something in Scripture, it's something that, okay, there's a plan to this. The Most High created you after himself. The Most High is not stupid. Why would he make stupid people? That is a narrative that you believe because that's what they tell you to believe. Just do a little shuck and jive for me. Go ahead and act on the screen. Throw the ball up in the air because we don't expect you to do anything else other than that. And there was a hush in Israel. Anyway. Okay. They go. Simeon is put in jail and is left there. He's segregated. The brothers go back. And on their way back, something happens. That evening, as they are encamped, going back to their father, one of the brothers gets up. He goes to feed his camel, or feed his donkey, Get some fodder out of his pack. Now, I should say this, before they leave Mitzrayim, Zafnach Panecha, or Yosef, does something very strategic again. What he does is he says, take the men's packs, fill them up with grain, and all the money that they gave you, give it back. Put it in their packs. They didn't know this. He had someone give them their money back and put all the grain back in their satchels. And they rode off out of Mitzrayim. It wasn't until that evening when they were encamped that when one of the brothers got up to feed his donkey, he decided and saw that all his money was there. Immediately they get distressed. Why do they get distressed? Come on, it's obvious. That's right. They thought, oh my gosh, the Egyptians are going to think that we stole their money, that we stole all of this. We're getting set up. They head on back to see their father. Now we're in the chapter 43. They go back and see their father. Now, what's not apparent to everybody is that when they go back and see their father and they tell their father all this, they don't necessarily, now granted, they have a brother that's incarcerated. And what's said here is that they don't go back to Mitzrayim until all the food is ran out. That means they kept his behind down there until they went through all the food that they had. This wasn't like, oh, okay, we just came back from the grocery store, the food's going to last us a week. No. They left him there because he was basically good as dead with those Egyptians. And that's the reason why Yaakov reacts the way he does when they tell him, listen, we went down there, we had somebody pull us aside, one of these dignitaries in Mitzrayim. He spoke very harshly to us. We had this issue, we got thrown in prison, and then they said to us, if you ever come back to Mitzrayim without our brother, then we are going to kill you. They tell this to their father. Their father obviously is distressed because he says, look at what you clowns have done. You've robbed me of 2 children. 2 of them. Shimshon is gone and Yosef is gone. What makes you think I'm going to allow you to go back down there with Benjamin? Now, Scripture already told you why Benjamin meant a lot to Yaakov, okay? Yaakov had Benjamin and who else? By the same wife. Joseph. Who's the wife? Rachel. The woman he loved the most, those were the two kids, Joseph and Benjamin. He's going to keep a tight grip on Benjamin. He ain't letting him go without a fight. So, we were starting to run out of food again. Yehuda says, listen, Father, I know you want us to go back down there to get some food, but you got to understand, let me remind you, if I go back down there without Benjamin, then we're going to have an issue. They're going to kill us all. So, what happens? Reuven steps up again, and he says to his father, he says, put him in my care. And his father's like, there's no way in the world I'm going to let my son go back down there. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. So again, Yehuda is given specific instructions concerning this. He says, hey, the man in Mizraim says, don't come back here without Benjamin, your youngest brother. Yaakov finally concedes to this whole entire thing. He says, you know what, if this is going to happen, it's going to happen. But we need food. We really do need food. So go back down there and take Benjamin. And there's Yehuda that steps up again and says, hey, look, assign him to me. If something should ever happen, and I think what happens with Reuven, he gets declined because he says, you know, if something happens to Shimshon or Benjamin and I can't bring them back, then you can go ahead and kill two of my sons. Okay, Yaakov finally concedes, and then he allows Yehuda to be kind of the caretaker of Benjamin while he comes down there. And Yehuda says, you know, if something happens to these Benjamin, then you can blame me. Okay? So Yaakov is trying to, in his mind, make restitution with the fact that my sons, all of them, could not come back. Or I could be losing my youngest son, Benjamin, in this whole entire thing. Yaakov does something that I initially, when I heard, or at least when I read this, I thought of Esau. So he says, okay, when you go back down there, you're making provisions. This is what I want you to do. Actually, what would you do? What would you tell your sons? You're getting ready to go back down. Now, you know the scenario. You're getting ready to go back down to Mitzrayim. Your brother is incarcerated. And you're getting ready to go see the viceroy again that says, if you don't bring this particular person with you, I'm going to kill you. And your dad is kind of already reluctant with it already, but Benjamin's going. What do you do? Is there anything different that you would do? And I already gave it away when I told you, think about what he did when he saw his brother Esau. So this is what he does. He tells him, he says, listen, let's be practical about this. The money that you had the first time when you went down there, put it back in your packs. Take them, show them that you're not being dishonest. So the money that you had that you were going to spend, take that and then take the money that you're needing now to buy new grain, take that with you too. So you're going to take double of what you had. That's first off. If you get stopped, you always got the money. You get questioned about it. Good. No harm, no foul. This is what also you need to do. He tells him to do this very, very specifically. And then he tells him this. He says, when you go down there and see him, I want you to take some gifts. Then he do the same thing with his brother Esau when he went and saw him. He took a whole bunch of caravan of gifts in front of him before he went and saw him. That's in Parashah 33. Okay? That's initially what I thought that was about. But see, when I'm going to wag my own tail here, okay? I'm just going to wag it. When you're looking at Scripture, the Most High will steer you where you need to go. Because I was wrong. Because I initially thought, oh, okay, he's just doing what he's done before. Let's just shower him with gifts so it'll be more pleasing. Then I had to stop and think, do you honestly believe that the man who runs the second in command of the world needs your little funky little things that you come in here? Don't you think he has access to all that anyway? What good is that going to do? What do you give the person that has everything? I thought about that for a little bit. The Most High steered me back to Parashah chapter 37. Oh, I can't get there yet. I'm giving it away. He took me back to 37, 23 through 25. Let's put it up on the screen so you can read it. Now, granted, I'm thinking he's telling his sons to take all these provisions so he can please the man in Mitzrayim, but not necessarily so. So in 37, verse 23 through 25. Let's get on the way. That's 14. All right. It'll start with, so it was that Yosef, there it is. So it was that Yosef arrived with his brothers. They stripped off his robe. We're going back to what we had read before. We're going to go a verse into it a little bit longer. The long sleeve robe that he was wearing, and they took him and threw him in the cistern. The cistern was empty without any water. They sat down to eat their meal, but as they looked up, they saw in front of them a caravan of Yishmaelim coming from Gilad, and their camels were loaded with aromatic gum, healing resin, and opium on their way down to Egypt. He's telling them, and what Yaakov tells his sons to take to the man in Mitzrayim, he tells them to take healing resin, a little honey, aromatic gum, opium, pistachios, and almonds. Almost telling them to take the same types of things. Who were these guys? These guys were merchants. When you go down there, I don't want you to look like a Hebrew. I want you to have some bigger status. Merchants had status. Okay? It's not so much that you're going to give him something. I want to, just like when you walk into a room, your appearance makes all the difference in the world. It's the appearance of what you look like. You look like you're prosperous. Thank you. So I'm doing this so I don't want my children to get harmed. Hebrews are not stupid. You got to get out of this mindset of it is what it is, and our culture and the stereotypes and the stigmatisms that they've been put upon us, we just need to stick with. You change that ideology all the way. You are a strategic, masterful-minded group of people. You got to understand that. Okay, so keep in mind that there was a famine, not a drought. Some plants would have been able to survive. So you could say, okay, well, why in the world is they bringing pistachios and other things? Other things could grow. We're talking about a famine, not a drought. And we're talking about a famine of grain. The famine was probably systemic to comestibles like grain and also produce. Also, Yosef was the governor of Mitzrayim and was unrivaled except for Pharaoh. Yosef would have had access to the choicest accoutrements. The best of these gifts would have been looked upon as only favorable, as a favorable gesture to Yosef. One of those things, now you know I always like to, if there's something that's brought up in Scripture we haven't talked about before, I like to kind of talk about it a little bit. And there's this little guy that they brought him, and this thing called opium. Opium. The Mediterranean region contains the earliest archaeological evidence of human use of opium. The oldest known with purposes such as food, anesthetics, and rituals. Evidence from ancient Greece indicate that opium was consumed in several ways, including inhalation of vapors, suppositories, medical, poultices, I think that's what that is, and a combination with hemlock for suicide. Okay? Sumerian and Assyrian, Egyptian, Indian, Greek, Roman, Persian, and Arab empires all made a widespread use of opium, which is the most potent for pain relief then available, allowing ancient surgeons to perform prolonged surgical procedures. Opium is mentioned in the most important medical texts in the ancient world. Widespread medical use of unprocessed opium contained with the American Civil War before giving away of morphine as its successor. So it's used as a morphine. It's a painkiller. Okay? Which could be injected at precisely a controlled amount. So they got away from the use of opium as a painkiller because they couldn't control the dosages. It was the progenitor of morphine. Okay? And if you don't know, now you know. Okay, you didn't grow up in that generation? Speaking to the wrong group of people. No, boy. So nonetheless, they go ahead, they go down there. He sends them off with this one thing that may El Shaddai, this is what their father says, may El Shaddai watch over you and keep you. May El Shaddai return Benjamin, Simeon, and all of you back from the land of Mitzrayim. The brothers made it back to Mitzrayim. And when Yosef saw his brother Benjamin, he told the manager of his household, listen, I want you to take some animals, and I want you to go ahead and I want you to prepare a meal at noon. And when I get there at noon, we're going to fellowship. Okay? The manager goes and grabs the brother. And now he's packed. He got boys with him. He ain't by himself. He goes and gets the brothers. And the brothers are immediately what? They are upset. They are we're for it now. Oh my gosh. Here we are. They go and they get the brothers and they plead with the manager. They tell the manager, say, look, I know what this is about. It said, and they, again, prior to this, they're saying this amongst themselves. They're saying, you know what, they're going to take us in here. They're going to make us slaves. They're going to take our donkeys. They're going to take all of our money. And this is what this is all about because of this issue that we had here last time. And they think they stole it from us. So they get to the gate of the house. They're pleading with the manager and telling him, and say, listen, I know what this may look like, what happened last time when we were here, but we had no ulterior motive. We had no intentions on doing this. None at all. The manager says this, and this is how I know that even though Yosef is in Mitzrayim, he's still an influence on his household, just like you are exiled in the land of the United States. You still exude the Most High wherever you go. Because he's influencing his manager. Because the manager says to the men, the sons, says, don't worry about it. The Most High of your father and your Most High, who you serve, put that money back in your packs. But I know all about it because I was the one that actually helped do it. So don't worry. You're fine. Come in. This is speaking to the gullibility of these boys, okay? Or these men. Because he just told you that I did that. I put that in your packs. And they didn't chime in on it. They didn't catch that. So they go inside. They start laying out all of their gifts. The pistachio nuts, the opium, the almonds, the honey, the aromatic resins. They start laying it out, okay? Anticipation of Yosef or Zafaf Panecha to come in. He comes in and he says what? He sees his brothers and he comes in. I could imagine he comes in. He's got, the people tending to him. He's got, people are taking his robe and people are washing his hands. And this is a dignitary coming into the room. Now, also, again, know this is when the Hebrew sons of Israel were invited in. Now, how many sons do we have going back? 9. 9 of them are there. Okay? Or matter of fact, 10, because Benjamin's with them. I retort. There's 10 of them. They're given water to wash their hands. Good gestures. Water to wash their hands, water to wash their feet. And they've been given, their donkeys have been given fodder for them to eat. So Yosef comes in. He greets them with a pleasantry. How are you? How are you doing? How's your father? Now I should also make mention that Yaakov got on their son's case about that too. He said, why in the world would you tell him that you have a father and a brother that's back in Canaan? And they actually said, when he first went down there and he asked this, he says, hey, look, we were just answering the questions honestly. He asked us where we were from and we gave him kind of this backstory so we could prove that we're just here to buy food. So at any rate, he asked him about his father. He said, yes, our father is fine. He says, is that your youngest brother? He says, yes, this is our youngest brother. This is he. This is the person that you wanted to see. So, overwhelmed. Actually, what he does is he blesses him. May Yahweh bless you. That's what he tells his brother. That's beautiful. May Yahweh bless you. He's so filled with the emotion that he dismisses himself. He can't hold it anymore. He goes off and he cries in his chamber. He gets himself together, comes back out, and he says to everyone, prepare the meal and eat. Now, in this particular segue portion of it, this is where I'm going to give you a little insight into how my brain thinks here. Because the scripture is very specific. This is where it shows up the first time, where it says that they served the Hebrews and they served the Egyptians separate. And the reason they serve the Egyptians separate is because Egyptians think that Hebrews are abhorrent. They're nasty to them. Now, the question should be is why in the world are Hebrews nasty to Egyptians? What is it about Hebrews that makes them so... I thought about that for a while. And this is my idea. This is not in Scripture. This is just me talking. This is me coming up with, because Scripture doesn't fill you in on this part. And the moment there was, again, what popped into my head was what I've encountered. If any of you have any Indian friends, how many of you have Indian friends? You know that Indian people of that culture, there's some Indian people who won't eat certain kinds of meat. And that's because they worship that animal. They're not going to eat what they worship. Right. So I thought about this. I said, maybe it's because Hebrews are they're shepherds, and they eat things that Egyptians don't eat. And so they find them abhorrent. So the first thing I thought about was, well, beef. Do Egyptians eat beef? And I said, well, maybe they don't. And why is that? Because Egyptians worship cow. What did they build when they got out of Mitzrayim and they were out there and Moshe was up on the mountain? They built themselves a golden calf to worship. So I did a little research on this bull that's in Mitzrayim. It's called Apis. I want you to listen to what I'm getting ready to tell you. Apis, the bull. Some believe that Apis the bull is what they made when they went out of Mitzrayim. This is the calf that they made to worship this. Okay? Apis the bull was an important sacred animal to the ancient Egyptians and was worshipped in the Memphis region. Apis is identified as the son of Hathor and Ra. Hathor is a woman, Ra is the sun god. A primary deity of the pantheon of ancient Mitzrayim, Egypt. Listen intently, listen. Initially, he was assigned a significant role in the worship of Hathor, his mother, being sacrificed and reborn. I wonder if you guys are worshiping somebody that's been sacrificed and reborn. And that's what the children of Israel did. They came out and they worshiped a calf that was sacrificed and reborn. So, can you see where your Greeks have gotten their influences from? It even goes on to say this. As with other sacred beasts, Apis has importance increased over the centuries. During the colonization of Egypt, The Greeks and the Roman authors had much to say about Apis. The markings by which the black calf was recognized, a black calf. The manner of this conception was by a ray from heaven. As with sacred beasts, Apis' importance increased over the centuries. And in this whole entire dissertation, what they get down here and say is this, is that since the Greeks, I'm going to go back even further than that. Apis was one of the Egyptians' deities that Alexander the Great offered a sacrifice to during his seizure of ancient Egypt by the Persians, from the Persians, I should say. After Alexander's death, Ptolemy the first, Soter, made efforts to integrate Egyptian religion with that of Hellenistic rulers. Ptolemy's policy was to find a deity that might win the reverence of both groups. Despite the curses that the Egyptian religion leaders had against the deities of this provision of fallen rulers. Since the Greeks had little respect for animal-headed deities, a Greek statue was erected as an idol and proclaimed as anthropomorphic equivalent to the highly popular Apis. It was named Asur-Hapi, which became Serapis. The later was said to be Osiris fully rather than just as Ka. What did I just get done saying? Basically what the Greeks did was they said, we need to join these two things together, so we're going to turn Apis the bull into a man. And in the worship of that man, what we're going to do in its roots is this particular god is killed and resurrected. You have more in common with Israel than you think you do. That's not an ancient book. Stop classifying it as that, because it's not. This is relevant for today. And you don't need anybody to spiritualize it for you in order for you to understand it. Now, we're eating. We're fellowshipping together. Zafak Panecha and his brothers. They're having a good old time. It ends chapter number 43 with that sentiment of finally getting back. He never reveals himself to them yet. He's just rejoicing with them and fellowshipping with them. Okay? Set up. Set up. Set up. Set up, set up, set up. All right? They stay the night. In the morning, they leave. But unbeknownst to them, the day before when they were fellowshipping, Joseph says over to his manager, he says, come here. I want you to take all their money and give it back to them. Fill the packs up. Do the same thing over again. But this time, I want you to take my goblet that I use for divination. Now, this goes to a reason why I bring that up again, and I emphasize this divination thing, because he is the viceroy of Egypt. He cannot fake. Well, he has to fake it. He has to fake it. He is definitely with the Most High, but he has to put on this front in front of everybody. Okay? So, if you're having some issues with the fact, oh, my past, I used to just stick with the Most High. Okay? You'll be all right. You'll be all right. So, he says, take this goblet of divination and put it in the youngest one's pack. Who's the youngest one? Benjamin. Okay, he puts it in Benjamin's pack, and we're in 44, and this is the last chapter. Puts it in Benjamin's pack, and then but that's unbeknownst to them. They all ride off in the morning. That was good. We went down there, and we had a successful trip. Got the food that we needed. Benjamin's with us. We're coming back. Simeon's with us. I forgot to include that, but when they saw him, when they came into the house, they brought Simeon out. So Simeon's back with them. They're all riding back. And then as they're riding out, Joseph enacts his plan. He goes to his manager and he says this. Go right up. Catch him. Catch him. And then ask him, why have you done this evil against us? Ask him, why did you do this evil? We tried to do good by you, but you decided you wanted to do evil against us. What in the world? So, you messed with the wrong Hebrew. So, the manager does exactly what his master tells him to do. Go right up, he catches him. Overtakes him. He says to them exactly what I just got done saying. Why have you guys decided to do us evil when we meant good for you? They were like, what in the world are you talking about? Why are you speaking to us like this? We have no reason. He said, well, listen, one of you stole my master's goblet that he uses for divination. Don't you know that he would know the truth because he's a divinator? They are like, oh my goodness, what in the world is happening? What in the world is happening to us? What, Most High, what are you doing to us now? That's why I said they were very gullible. You left Egypt the second time and you knew who you was dealing with and you didn't check your packs? Man, okay. Well, let's play this one out. They're pleading with him and they tell him, look, we didn't do this. And furthermore, to emphasize the point, since you want to accuse me of something that I didn't do, check this out. Whoever you find that goblet in, kill him. And then we will be your slaves. You want to know where the first part, I've mentioned this before in the past, is the Egyptians, you do not tell the Egyptians that you will be their slaves. Because that's what you spoke out into the atmosphere and that's what ended up happening. He says, oh, okay, we'll be your slaves. That's how much we're confident. So this is what they do. They line them all up from the oldest to the youngest. Every man. Let me see your pack. No goblet. Let me see your pack. We do this all 11 times. We get down to the youngest. We know we got to be scot-free. We get to Benjamin. He takes his pack. Bling, ding, ding, ding. Oh! Scripture says that the men were so upset that they ripped their clothes off out of despair, tore their clothes. Because why? They lost Benjamin, and you just said kill him. Their thoughts were of their dear old father. And this is why Yehuda, I believe, steps up and says, listen, we all got to go. Because for us to go back and tell this to our father would kill him, would literally kill him. They end up, they end up going and getting back on their, packing everything up and getting back on their donkeys and heading back to Mitzrayim. They go back and they have to confront their brother. Now under the guise of we're guilty. So, Yehuda and his brothers returned to the house of Yosef, prostrated themselves on the ground again in the dream. And let me take a little segue and a little sidebar here real quick. From reading this, I came to an understanding that I need to take my dreams a little bit more seriously. Okay? The Most High speaks to us in different ways. It is well documented in Scripture that the Most High speaks to his prophets through visions and dreams. Don't take your dreams when you know the Most High is speaking to you like it's nothing. Okay? They mean something. Everybody in here has the same testimony, that you were revealed something that the Most High gave you through a dream. We should want to ask for the Most High's discernment of what that means. Okay? Don't take your dreams lightly. So, they bow themselves on the ground. Yosef asked, how could they do such a thing? Yosef says, can you see I can see the truth through divination. Now, I won't say that. We'll go on. Yehuda spoke to the group and admitted that under the circumstances, we don't have anything that we can say. What do you want me to do? There's nothing I can do. Obviously, the goblet has been found in my younger brother's pack. We can't obviously go back to our father with this. So there's nothing that I can present to you that's going to exonerate us from this. We are now under whatever you want to do. So, this is what, he's very strategic. He understands what he's doing. Oh, you're doing this because you're trying to save your hide with your daddy. Not today. Not today. Check this out. This is what we're going to do. Yosef then tells the group, I'm going to take your Benjamin as my slave, and all of you can go back to see your father. You could not imagine, listen, any father that has sons knows this. They'll do anything. They'll lie to your face to try to sugarcoat it so they don't have to deal with it, to deal with you. It's better that I just go through what I'm going through and not have to go, oh my gosh. Y'all have been in school, I'm going to call your parents. I'm going to call them. You would rather just take the paddling at school, or back in the days, that's what they did with us. They don't do that now, but you would rather take the punishment from school other than them, and don't say anything to my parents, than to go back and have to deal with them. Because your parents are coming at you with razor blades and lemon juice. I would rather just stay here. And they do the same exact thing. We'll just be your slaves. We don't want to go back. You'll be doing us a favor by keeping us here. Joseph knew better than that. You go ahead and take yourself back to your father. And Benjamin stays with me. Be gone. And that's the end of chapter 44. It's the end of our Parashah. I'm going to let you read what happens next. We should know, out of anything else, to walking through this, that the Most High is very strategic and He is in control. This is a part of a plan. Okay? Don't lose sight of that. Don't lose sight of that. We're in the weeds right now. We're looking at individual things, but in individual situations. But know that the Most High is orchestrating something way grander for this. And this is a preservation of a people through, and that's the reason why Manasseh is named the way he's named. That's what his name means, is to remember. He's saying, I think it means to forget all the calamities that have happened to me. And Ephraim is actually named fruit because it's all of the things that he gained while he was in Mitzrayim. His sons are named after that. But this is a part of a grand scheme. People, we are here to learn about our culture, our genealogy, the magnificent opulence of the Hebrew people that is long bereft from what is being taught through the propaganda of what you see on that social media and what's on that TV. Know this, you are a chosen people, that have been appropriated by the Most High for his service, and understanding that, to know that it's about a nation. Stop making this about you and your personal issues when you show up every Sunday morning or wherever you at to talk about how I can get something for me. We got to think about the nation, because all of your prophets do the same thing. They don't talk about a person, they talk about a people. So if we keep that in mind and stay focused on that, we will always be in the favor of the Most High. And as I say that, I want to bless you with the Aaronic benediction as I close. It's in Bad Midbar. It's from Numbers, chapter 6, verses 24 through 26. Yivarekaka, Yahweh ve'yishmareka. Ya'er Yahweh panav eleka vichuneka. Yesa Yahweh panav eleka v'yasham laka shalom. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. May he bless you and keep you. May he bless you and keep you. May he bless you and keep you. I'm looking at everyone in here. May he bless you and keep you. May Yahweh make his face to shine on you and show you his favor. Not some man's favor, not some woman's favor, but his favor. May Yahweh lift up his face towards you and give you shalom.